Hey there, booty foodies! Let's hit the FDA recall list again. Are you a seafood lover? Today we've got a bit of a shellfish situation unfolding in the Pacific Northwest. The FDA has just dropped a bombshell warning. If you're planning on digging into some shellfish from Oregon and Washington, you might want to think again. Why? Well, it turns out there's a serious risk of paralytic shellfish poisoning from oysters and clams harvested from certain bays, and it cannot be cooked out safely. Hear how bad, symptoms to watch out for, and where across the states you might find one on your plate. Serving up smiles one dish at a time. Food is Thy Mood is now live. So what's the fallout from our shellfish scandal so far? Well, it's not looking pretty. In Oregon alone, at least 31 unlucky folks have found themselves on the receiving end of paralytic shellfish poisoning. Imagine biting into what you thought was a tasty treat, only to end up with numbness, vomiting, and in severe cases, trouble breathing. Not exactly the seafood experience anyone signed up for. Given the gravity of the situation, the state officials have jumped into action. Oregon authorities have shut down the entire coastline to the harvesting of mussels, razor clams, and bay clams. It's like putting up a giant "Do Not Disturb" sign for our shelled friends until further notice. They've also closed 3 key bays, those mentioned in the FDA advisory, to commercial oyster harvesting. Not to be outdone, our neighbors up in Washington have followed suit. The state's Pacific coastline is now off-limits for shellfish harvesting as well. This includes mussels, clams, scallops, and oysters. A quick glance at the Washington State Department of Health Shellfish Safety Map, and you'll see a whole lot of red, indicating closed areas. It's a tough pill to swallow, but these drastic measures are essential to keep everyone safe. So if you're planning on a beach trip with a shellfish hunt, you might want to bring a picnic instead. And watch out in restaurants across the states. Wondering when you can safely slide those shellfish back onto your plate? Well, the timeline for recovery is a bit like predicting when the last guest will finally leave a party. It varies. According to experts, mussels might bounce back quickly, sort of like that guest who peeks in, says hi, and is out before things get too wild. They can cleanse themselves of toxins within a few weeks. On the flipper side, razor clams are like the party enthusiasts who linger until the very end, absorbing more toxins and taking several months to a year to detox. The duration for toxin clearance heavily depends on ongoing algal bloom conditions and environmental factors, like water temperature and currents. So while our quick-to-recover mussels might be ready for a comeback tour sooner, other shellfish might be taking a longer sabbatical from the seafood scene. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this shellfish saga. The FDA has specifically pointed its finger at oysters and bay clams that have been harvested from some picturesque but now problematic areas. If you're a fan of shellfish from Netarts and Tillamook Bays in Oregon or around Willapa Bay in Washington, it's time to press pause on your seafood feasts. Since late May, these spots have been identified as hot zones for toxins that are nothing to mess with, but they're traveling across the states to restaurants. But what's really going on? Well, it seems these shellfish have been mingling a bit too closely with some toxic algae. The result? They're loaded with paralytic shellfish poisoning toxins, a condition that can turn your lovely dinner into a dining disaster. It's not just a local issue. These tainted treasures have traveled beyond their home states, finding their way into markets and restaurants across Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, and New York. The FDA isn't just being cautious. They're telling eateries and seafood vendors far and wide to keep these shellfish off the menu. So next time you're shopping or dining out, you might want to double-check where those shellfish are coming from. Let's break down the science behind the shellfish showdown. Paralytic shellfish poisoning, or PSP for short, is the villain in our seafood story. It's caused by saxitoxin, a neurotoxin produced by certain algae. When shellfish dine on this toxic algae, they become carriers of the toxin, unknowingly setting a trap for seafood lovers. Why is PSP so dangerous? Well, it can strike fast and hard. Symptoms can kick in within 30 to 60 minutes after eating the contaminated shellfish and range from mild, like numbness around the mouth, to seriously scary stuff like difficulty breathing, irregular heartbeats, and in extreme cases, it can be life-threatening. Thinking of cooking or freezing the shellfish to dodge the danger? Think again. These methods won't destroy the toxin. That's right, there's no cooking your way out of this one. When it comes to PSP, the only safe move is to avoid the affected shellfish altogether. Now, who's to blame for turning our beloved shellfish into party poopers? Meet the algal blooms, the life of the party in the ocean, but not the kind you'd want to hang out with. These blooms occur when colonies of algae grow out of control and produce harmful toxins, like the toxin causing all this shellfish chaos. Think of these algae as the unruly partygoers who just don't know when to stop. When conditions are just right, with warm water temperatures, plenty of sunlight, and nutrients galore, these algae throw a massive bash. Unfortunately, while they're having the time of their lives, they're spewing toxins into the water, making it a dangerous place for shellfish and ultimately for us. Some of these rowdy algae are fueled by nutrients from agricultural runoff, like phosphorus and nitrogen, making them even more likely to go overboard. It's as if they're on an endless spring break, fueled by an influx of nutrient cocktails from our own backyards. So next time you hear about algal blooms, picture them as the ocean's overzealous party animals who just don't know when enough is enough. The shellfish situation is more than just a culinary crisis. It's a real economic pinch for the Pacific Northwest. Each year, the shellfish industry shells out a whopping $270 million into the region's economy and supports around 3,200 jobs. With bays closed and shellfish off the menu, local fisheries are feeling the crunch. This isn't just about fewer clams and oysters at your favorite seafood spot. It's about the fishermen, small business owners, and coastal communities that rely on these marine munchies for their livelihood. Imagine if your cash flow went on a long, unplanned nap. That's pretty much what's happening here with our shell-bound buddies. These shellfish aren't just lazing around. Their downtime is costing everyone big time. Here's hoping they wake up from their costly slumber sooner rather than later, for everyone's sake. So there you have it, the scoop on the shellfish care sweeping through Oregon and Washington. From FDA warnings to economic impacts, it's clear this situation is more than a mere bump in the road for shellfish enthusiasts. For now, the best bet is to stay sharp and keep an eye on updates from health authorities. Always double-check the source of your shellfish and maybe give those local clams and oysters a rain check until the coast is clear. And remember, staying informed is your best defense against dining disasters. If you found this video helpful, check out our video on FDA recalled drinks and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all things food safety and more. Keep safe, keep smart, and keep watching for the latest on your favorite foods.